Hello, everybody, and welcome back. In this episode of Unravelling Autism, I'll be looking at toilet training. By toilet training, I mean helping and teaching your child to get to the stage where he is no longer using nappies and is voiding himself in the toilet. In the early stages of toilet training, we have to draw a distinction between nighttime training and daytime training. A child will usually be toilet trained first during the day, whereas being toilet trained at night will take a bit longer. In this video, I will only be covering toilet training during the day. Toilet training can be a difficult subject for parents. It involves a huge transition, which, if it is not managed correctly, can result in a lot of stress for parents and their children. However, it is a vital life skill. It is an important developmental milestone, and once a child achieves it, his life improves significantly. He has much more independence, and his parents are also freed of the responsibility of having to care for a child who is still in nappies. There are some signs of readiness that will indicate your child is ready to begin toilet training. These signs don't occur in all cases, and they also don't occur for all people. However, it is useful to be aware of them. The first is that your child may dislike being soiled or wet and will want to be changed as soon as he becomes wet or soiled. The second is that he might show an interest in going to the toilet. He may accompany you to the toilet at times and watch how you use the toilet. And the third is that your child might be busy or playing in a room and then he suddenly goes to a separate space or corner. And the reason he's doing this is to get some privacy in order to avoid himself. For autistic kids, there are special issues that surround toilet training. Developmental guides will tend to tell you that children are ready for toilet training between the ages of 18 months to 2 years. However, this is a guide that applies to neurotypical children. And for autistic children, they may take much longer to reach the stage when they are ready to be toilet trained. And also when they begin toilet training, the process will take much longer. Toilet training could take days, weeks, or even months. You can't place a time frame on it. And also you have to remember that with autistic children, they may actually stay in nappies much longer than neurotypical children, perhaps 3 years at age 3, 4, or even 5. And this is not something to be afraid of. Their development is proceeding according to a different trajectory. So they can still be toilet trained, but we just have to be aware of their special needs and issues. So some of them are, for instance, they have language delays or can be non-verbal, so they won't be able to tell you that they need to go. They could have repetitive behaviors throughout the day that prevents them from being aware that they are wet or soiled. This is a sensory issue. They could also have sensory difficulties with things like the feel and the appearance of the toilet seat, the bathroom, even toilet paper. They are routine bound children, so they are afraid of change, and toilet training involves a huge change. So they may be afraid of changing to a way of doing things that makes them feel unsafe. Um, some children will also do what is called smearing in the toilet or in the house, and the smearing of feces is a sensory issue, but it is unlikely to last long once your child becomes properly toilet trained. So without further ado, let's look at some of the tips and tricks for helping your child to be trained. The first is that it might be helpful for you to keep a record of when your child is actually voiding himself. The record could say, for instance, he has a wet nappy after breakfast, or he has a bowel movement after playing in the garden, and so on. And once you compile these records over a period of days, it will give you an idea as to when you need to take your child to the toilet. It will help you to make an educated guess. You could also create what is called a visual toilet routine. And a visual toilet routine is where you basically set out the steps of toilet training using pictures, and you use this routine when your child is in the toilet. For For example, toilet training involves a number of steps such as closing the door, pulling down pants and underwear, sitting on the toilet, using the toilet, wiping, flushing, pulling up clothes, washing hands and drying hands. And all of these steps could be put down using pictures in a schedule. And when you take your child to the toilet, you could actually have him tick or match the relevant step, and he could use this routine until he masters all the steps, and then would no longer need to use it. Um, and this being said, it is still important to remember that the most important part of toilet training is not all the individual steps, but is having your child recognize the urge or the sensation to go. And when he recognizes this sensation, then going immediately to the toilet, to sit on the toilet to void himself. That, in a nutshell, is the most important part of the toilet training. So when toilet training, you can use what is called the intensive method, and this involves setting a timer at regular intervals, for example, 30 or 35 minutes, and taking your child to the toilet every 30 to 35 minutes. This method worked for me, and I would recommend it to parents. When toilet training, you could use pull-ups or underwear. The choice is yours. Some parents prefer to use underwear and then to put a nappy or a pull-up over it. And they do this in order to help the child to get the sensation of a wet underwear, which will happen if the underwear is placed first, and then, but at the same time, make things easier for the parent by having the pull-up on, because cleaning up then becomes easier. I just used pull ups, and I found that this worked for me. And when my child was about 3 weeks into toilet training and had, in fact, been toilet trained, I then moved her on to using underwear. You could use a potty or a toilet, it is also your choice. The advantages of a potty are that it is very small, comfortable, and user friendly for your child. It's portable, but at the same time, it has to be cleaned each time your child uses it. Then, with the toilet, the advantage is that no cleaning is required, it's available everywhere. However, the disadvantage is that it is not as child friendly as a potty, and also when your child uses it, you might need a toilet seat, which you place over the seat to make him comfortable, and he might also need a stepper if he is very short. Um, when you are toilet training, you have to think of a catchphrase that you will use every single time you take your child to the toilet. You could use something like toilet time or potty time, or it's time to go. And the significance of this catchphrase is that it is helping your child to understand what he needs to do, that is, he needs to go. And also, it is giving him words that he can use to communicate to you when he wants to go. So it has, the purpose is twofold. So once so the process is you set the timer for regular intervals during the day. When the timer goes off, you say to your child, potty time or toilet time, and you take your child to the toilet. In the toilet, he needs to pull down his underwear and pants, and he needs to sit on the toilet for between 3 to 5 minutes. If he doesn't know how to manage his clothes, I would recommend that you first teach him how to manage his clothes before you start toilet training, so that you don't complicate matters. So now your child is sitting on the toilet, and within that 3 to 5 minutes, let's say he doesn't go. Even if he doesn't go, you have to give him lots of verbal praise. You would say to him, well done, good going to the toilet. But if he does go within 3 to 5 minutes, you would also give lots of praise. You would say, good job, good going to the toilet, fantastic work. And then you would also give your child a tangible reward. So, a tangible reward is something that you would give your child to have him understand that he has done well by using the toilet, by avoiding himself in the toilet. You would select it based on your child's preferences by observing your child. You would find what he loves the most, the things that he loves the most, and you would use them as rewards. You would put them into a jar or into a box and keep them in the toilet for use. The reason I say you would keep them in the toilet is because giving the reward must be immediate. As soon as your child voids himself in the toilet, he must receive the reward in order to make a connection between going and receiving the reward. If you give it 5 or 6 minutes later in another room, he may not get the connection that the reward is for using the toilet, and then it might not be useful any longer. So you could collect things like your child's favorite and most enjoyable sweets, candies, chocolates, um, action figures, toys, and as I said, put them in the bathroom in a jar or a box. Um, then you would so for your child using the toilet, it's both verbal praise and this tangible reward. Um, If you are using things like candy or sweets, it's advisable to pop the sweet into your child's mouth to avoid any issues with hygiene or contamination. So then you would continue to take your child to the bathroom at regular intervals until he is able to go by himself or until he signals to you that he needs to go. Um, Part of the toilet training process is also the other steps involved in toilet training, but remember that they are less important than the most important part, which is for your child to make a connection between the urge to go and actually going and using the toilet. So these steps are, as I've explained, it's things like pulling up and down, pulling underwear up and down, um, sitting on the toilet, using the toilet, wiping, which is very important, flushing, washing hands, and drying hands. And you could prompt your child and teach each of these steps. So, for instance, you could place your hand over your child's hand and help him to flush. And then once he knows how to flush, you could remove your hand. And the same goes for all the other steps. So that, in a nutshell, is the toilet training process during the day. You would continue with it throughout the day, and then at night you would take your child to the toilet for the last time, and then put on his nappy and allow him to sleep in his nappy. Um, this would be the case until such time as your child is trained during the night. When he becomes aware of the need to go during the night, gets up and then goes to the toilet by himself or asks for your assistance. As I've said, the process of potty training or toilet training is a very intensive process. So it requires your full attention, and you cannot afford to be distracted during this process, to be preoccupied with other projects, or even to be sick. It is You would look upon the toilet training process as a huge commitment, as a commitment that takes a couple of weeks, and even you could look at it as a job, as your job for those days or weeks. You could maybe get other family members to help with chores, cooking, and cleaning, or you could get another family member, such as your partner, to help with the actual toilet training. But if they are going to help with the toilet training, they must observe the exact same process that you are following, follow all the same steps, and use the same catchphrase. Then it is important, let's just look at your frame of mind. It is important to be calm when you are toilet training. It is important to be patient. If you become anxious or frustrated, your child will pick up on this. And then the other most important part of it is that your child needs to find it enjoyable. This is something that must be enjoyable and fun for your child and pleasant. When he goes into the bathroom, he needs to be aware um, that he is doing something that leads up to him becoming a big boy or a big girl, and that when he goes in the toilet or uses the toilet successfully, that there will be rewards. Um, you will even notice a feeling of great pride on your child's face when he goes successfully for the first time and understands that he has actually used the toilet as opposed to using his nappy. This feeling of pride, as I've said, will be clearly visible on his face, and it will be a source of great comfort and satisfaction to parents. Accidents are something that you need to be aware of. They will happen. They will happen most in the beginning of the process, and then they will become less and less as your child becomes toilet trained. Remain calm when accidents happen. If you notice your child has had an accident, just remain calm and say something neutral like, you're wet, let's go and clean you up. Go to the toilet, help your child to get cleaned up. If you notice that your child is in the middle of avoiding himself, similarly, also just say toilet time, take your child to the bathroom and clean them up. Um, to help the toilet training process, you could have give your child extra fluids and snacks at regular intervals during the day. This helps your child to go more regularly and gives more opportunities for your child to learn how to use the toilet. I would like to share some of my personal experiences of toilet training. My daughter, who is autistic, I trained her at the age of 3.5. At the age of 2.5, 3, she was not attentive enough and she was moving around too much. She was simply not ready. I used a potty to train her because this was comfortable for her. I used pull ups, and about 3 weeks into her toilet training, when she was toilet trained, well, virtually toilet trained, I switched her to underwear. When she was in the toilet, I would read her books while she was sitting on the potty. These books were her favorite books, the books that she loved the most, and I did not use the books anywhere else except in the toilet. The books helped her to stay put because she tended to move around a lot. When she used the toilet, I gave lots of praise. I made a big fuss. I clapped and cheered. And then I also gave her physical rewards, which was a piece of chocolate. She didn't like hard candy. And for having a bowel movement, I gave her obviously a bigger piece of chocolate because um, that is more significant. Within 3 weeks to a month, she was toilet trained. And once she was toilet trained, she did not have any accidents after that. She our lives, basically our lives as a whole, were much improved, and Akila was much happier. Thank you for listening, and I wish you everything of the best if you are about to embark on this journey of toilet training. Remember that the important parts of toilet training are to plan ahead, um, to remain calm and patient, and to ensure that your child enjoys the process and feels pride in what he or she achieves. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you would like more useful information on how to help and raise a child with autism. Thank you and goodbye.